Hello, fellow Starsight readers. We are on video number 4. This is going to be covering pages 308 to about 407, from chapters 30 to about chapter 39. So this is a summarization of these chapters and my thoughts on them and my reactions. So before chapter 30, there is an interlude. During this interlude, Jorgen is training with Spenza's grandmother, Gran. Jorgen needs to learn how to follow and when to make his own decision about things. He doesn't hear anything above, like in the stars when he tries to use his psionic abilities, but he does hear something below instead, which kind of makes me wonder maybe he is picking up on that portal that might possibly be below the city. So Gran and Spenza are at the same moment kind of sensing each other, which is nice because Gran now knows that her granddaughter is okay. So in chapter 30, Braid and Spenza are doing training exercises for high-level superiority leaders. The test was more difficult, and Spenza believes that Winzik was showing off Braid and showing off his human. Spenza saw a hallucination of a memory of hers from under detritus. So it's kind of weird that the training facility was picking up on her memory. So maybe she thinks that the Delver isn't actually artificial, like the maze isn't artificial, but actually the corpse of a dead Delver, which makes a lot of sense. Braid expresses anger about being taken away from her parents when she was younger. Spenza, she reaches out to Braid in order to maybe get her thinking. Maybe there's something else that the humans can do, and maybe they're not as bad as what Braid thinks. But Braid ends up doing the mission that they're doing and releases some weapon. In so doing, it makes Spenza very aware where her home location is, and she can actually jump to detritus if she needed to. So, basically, in chapter 31, the weapon is the ability to send a Delver to detritus from the location they're at. So, it's basically a way to send the Delver away and pinpoint it to where you want it to attack, basically creating it as a weapon, which is not good. And the superiority would want to use that to keep the other species in check. Spenza tells Braid to be open about the possibility of going somewhere that they might accept Braid more unconditionally. After they hyperjump, though, the spy bot says that they're going to be detected, that the engineers are looking for it, but Spenza tells it to start using the gun. So in the chaos where the bot is actually shooting the gun into the engineer room, Spenza is able to trick a guard into helping her with the shooting incident and to get the spy bot that she put out there. Spenza ends up destroying the spy bot, the gun, but the actual spy bot was able to get into Spenza's bag. The hologram was down. The hologram was damaged. So if somebody looked into Spenza's bag, they would see the spy bot. Vapor sees that something's up and leads Spenza to a shuttle that has Kuna on it so that the police don't look into Spenza's bag. Kuna believes that Spenza is a spy for the Alanix species, that they were there to steal technology and information. They end up playing the recording of the drone when it was in the engineering room, and the big mystery of the book has been solved. There is actually a metal cage where the hyperdrive goes in, and inside that cage is one of the slugs, like Doom Slug. That is what is creating the hyperdrive. The power to do the hyperdrive is the slugs. And so the whole story of the slugs being poisonous was all just a way to stop people from having the slugs and using them for hyperdrive. Doomslug, we realize now that Doomslug was never really seen actually moving, but Doomslug is in different positions, so it's basically moving itself randomly using its power. It also makes sense why the Superiority says that they're poisonous and that they need to be reported. The fixation of Mbot on mushrooms makes sense now because the slugs are usually found near mushrooms. So Mbot's old pilot was looking for a slug to power the hyperdrive, and they were looking around mushrooms. So that makes total sense now. Kuna shows Spenza a portal, and they even witness them putting one of the giant alien species, like as a kind of a punishment, into one of those nothingness portals. Kuna imagines using the starfighters, the fleet, to make people respect the lesser species more. They want the lesser species to become more a part of the superiority and to have more peace and just have more regularity. Everyone just kind of getting along better. Spenza ends up believing him and decides to deactivate the Alanic disguise that she is using, and she shows her who she really is. So Kuna is basically the closest thing to an ally that the humans have in the superiority, her political side. Spenza tells Kuna about Winzik's plans with the Delvers, but at the end of the chapter, a Delver is possibly spotted. But it ends up not being a Delver. They found Spenza's human pistol and now believe that the humans are a larger threat than what they realized. Winzik is using the fighters to go to Detritus and destroy the human forces. Winzik is basically trying to do a military coup on the superiority. Spenza shows her humanness to Braid, thinking that she can get Braid on her side, but Braid yells and reports that she found a human spy, and then Spenza has to get out of this. She steals a ship and is able to get away from the weights and measures. That's the large carrier that they always use. She unfortunately, though, had to leave Mbot and Doomslug behind. Oh no, I'm so sad about that. She gets back to Detritus and talks to Kimmelin and warns them of the impending attack, and then the carrier ship shows up not too long after she arrived. Chapter 38, Spenza is updating Cobb on what has been going on, but things just don't add up. Basically, what she realizes is Winzik is going to lose, and he is broadcasting the battle. Spenza realizes the awful truth that he is trying to lure a Delver to Detritus to show the superiority, the threat of a Delver, but also that his flight individuals that he trained can stop the Delver, and basically Winzik will become a hero if they make the Delver go away, thus solidifying his power in the government. So Spenza goes out there realizing what he's trying to do, and she believes, this Delver is going to come and it's going to kill everybody. So Spenza goes out and she's able to talk to Hisho, and she ends up talking the crew and him into helping her. She basically makes herself the most vulnerable that she can possibly make her. She ejects herself from her little plane in space, tied with just by one little cord, and says, hey, this is me. Take it or leave it, but I need your help. They also connect with Vapor, and those three end up trying to go stop Braid from luring the Delver to Detritus. And then at the end of the chapter, Braid says to Spenza, I've always wanted to know who was a better pilot, you or me. So it looks like they're going to duke it out, dogfighting style, in chapter 40. So I'm excited for that. So I'm surprised about the slugs being the hyperdrive, and I'm liking the political machinations in this story with Winzik trying to take over the superiority by using this threat of the Delvers, but also making it so that he becomes the hero and lures them away. I think the political intrigue aspects it's not that bad. It's not that bad. So I'm excited to see what happens next.